Hi, my name is Aiden, and I am going to be running this channel, History Minute. Now, for my first video, I wanted to do a slightly personal project. I've been a percussionist for a little bit of time, and I wanted to highlight the uses of drums in American history. All the way from the Revolutionary War up to the early 1900s, instruments played a major part in warfare. Now, that might sound weird considering that instruments aren't weapons, but it makes sense when you put it into perspective. Back then, soldiers in a battalion would be organized in big lines. Orders were really hard to communicate across these big lines, so you could imagine it being very chaotic. According to the official 1862 United States document, Infantry Tactics by General Silas Casey, soldiers would learn specific commands, positions, and tactics before forming up in big lines. Now, you might be wondering what good these tactics would be if soldiers couldn't recognize commands across these large lines, and that's where instruments came in. The bugle and the field drum were used as ways for officers to echo their commands across entire battle lines. From wake-up calls to execution commands, there was pretty much a call for everything. Rallying, marching, firing, soldiers could be given any orders at a moment's notice. Not only that, but music playing could increase the soldiers' morale as they're marching onto the battlefield. I'll only be going over the drums today because they were the most common instrument on the battlefield considering how easy they were to teach, and also they're the only instrument out of the two that I know. After doing a little research, my goal is to perform some of the drum calls that were seen in Infantry Tactics, but I'd like to note first that my setup isn't completely historically accurate. I will be using, due to accessibility's sake, a concert snare drum, whereas a drummer from back then would use a field drum which is larger and has more reverb. Also, I will be using match grip for my sticks instead of traditional grip, which doesn't change the sound quality much, but it could change the performance aspect. Traditional grip was used back then by drummers because their drum was at a sideways angle, and they had to find a way to move their wrist around the drum and strike downwards with their stick. I will be going over 5 commands in this video, including the general, forward, commence firing, in retreat, and cease firing. I found that these are more than just codes for orders. Each call has been written a certain way to instill some kind of emotion or have a subtle effect on soldiers' morale. The general would announce the presence of the general, or typically the highest in command, at an assembly or a meeting before a battle. The excerpt starts fast and then it slows down a little bit. It prepares everyone to listen to what the general has to say because of how it slows down, and there's more gaps of air that fill the space between notes. Forward was the call to start marching. Of course, there were other marches and cadences for while soldiers would march, but forward started the march. It's rhythmic and easy to follow, so soldiers could start off walking long distances to the beat. March songs in general were very useful for soldiers walking long distances because they could take their minds off their legs and the potential pain they might have in them to focus more on lining up with the drums. Commence firing is a command that would order stationed soldiers to fire and reload in place. It's rapid and frantic sounding, being very distinct and easy to recognize across a battle line. Soldiers hearing this would already have their guns raised and loaded. The urgent and fast flams really incentivized a need to urgently reload and fire as fast as possible. In retreat signaled the falling back of a battalion. I know, not a huge surprise. The call is rhythmic, quite like forwards, but a little bit quicker by a difference of 4 beats per minute. A unit hearing this had already probably suffered heavy casualties, so the piece filled the soldiers with a sense of urgency to leave the battlefield as quick as possible. And lastly, ceasefiring did exactly what it sounds like. It called all soldiers to stop firing and finish reloading their guns. Because of technological advancements outdoing its necessity, Silas Casey's system hasn't been used for a very long time. However, at the time, it was an advancement in combat, and it's important to remember it as a stepping stone in our military history. In his own words, "If the system here set forth shall in any manner cause our armies to act with more efficiency on silo field of battle, and thus subserve the cause of our beloved country in this her hour of trial, my most heartfelt wishes will have been attained." And that's all I have for this project. If you have any questions, shoot a comment and I'll try to reply to it. Thank you very much for watching. This has been History Minute.